Anyway, happy New Year's, everyone, and hope everyone had a fantastic holiday. The goal for today is we're easing back into the new year a little bit, but I thought, okay, this is a good time to kind of take stock, and we got the whole year ahead of us, and basically get some input from all of you on what are things that you want to see more of, and either sessions that we can do on particular topics, or maybe even more than that, things that we want to kind of build together in like extended sessions. Like, yeah, I think late last year we did the one where we did like the actors, and then we kind of did the distributed actors, and it seemed like people really liked that one. Um, yeah, I've got some ideas. I think I've heard some ideas floating around, but I thought it would be cool to just do a little session and kind of go through a few of them, get ideas from folks here on what you'd like to see, and then maybe after this, I'll post something on Discord and do a little poll, and we can kind of prioritize things, and then we'll try to hit those over the course of the year along with other things. We've also got some other fun stuff coming up. Next week, we're going to be doing a session on akka HTTP to Zio HTTP, and Nabil will be joining us. So I think that will be really cool and really practical. And then the following week, we're having one of the contributors from Caliban join us to talk about some work that he's been doing around performance optimizations there. So you can both kind of see how like that particular library is getting faster, but I think there'll also be some lessons there on kind of doing that type of performance optimization work in general that you can apply to whatever you're doing. But for now, even though I don't know if we're going to do a ton of code today, I will share my screen, and just because I guess I do everything in an editor, basically, we'll do something in an editor here. I was just kind of going through. I think we got all our stuff merged in here. So let me maybe make a just quick project, just at least for us to kind of do some stuff together. I'll just call this discussion now. Make sure I've got things compiling in case we actually want to do something. What this? Okay. So yeah, I've definitely got ideas if we are a quiet group, which sometimes I feel like we're shy, but I think maybe let me put it out to everyone here first. I think ideally maybe do it in the Discord if you've got the link. I'll just post that one more time for anyone to join later. But also if you want to raise your hand and kind of do it, verbally and get on, or if you want to do it here, just however you want to share it. Maybe let's start by just getting some ideas of things that would be interesting for folks. And I'll just hop over. I guess I got my other screen here, so I'll hop over there to see what people are saying, or if everyone's being quiet. Hey, Daniel. Okay, I see some folks are typing, so maybe I'll give folks a minute here. Yeah. Oops. Also, if anyone has any like fun stories or facts of what they did over the holidays, definitely feel free to share that. Okay, so let's go through a couple of these and please keep them coming while I read some of these, and I'll try to get them in here. So first, we've got one. I'd love to see a in-depth ZIO schema session, not just how to derive a schema from a custom data type, but more how it works or how its power can be used for library authors. Okay, yeah, so I think that's a really good one. So yeah, let's just do kind of ideas. So I think we have one that's like ZIO schema deep dive. Yeah, I think that's definitely something we could do. It depends a little bit. Like I think that's a library that has a lot of depth to it. So we may see how deep we want to dive there. But yeah, I think we could definitely do more about the library. I see Daniel's here, so and he's been involved a lot with that library among other people and other libraries he's been involved with. So maybe he'd want to join for that. We could also potentially do something of like maybe we kind of explore creating like a very simple version for ourselves to kind of build up the intuition for that. I think there's a lot of the code in there is just you've got to handle like not just the case clause that has two things or the case clause that has 22 things, and the same thing for the enum, and kind of there are a lot of different aspects of functionality that library is trying to provide. But I think maybe one thing that could be interesting there would be to do a much simpler version of it that doesn't do all those things, but maybe builds a little bit more of an intuition of just what the library is trying to do and kind of how it's doing it. So definitely okay. I think we got that captured as one idea, and I think we'll just kind of create like just a big kind of parking lot or list here, and then like I said, I'll probably just post them on Discord and kind of let people vote on them, and we'll kind of go through them in order, and as well as just other things that come up or I feel like doing. Okay, so the next one is if you decide you're going to road developing something, developing a tool that helps with jar hell and Scala might work. Do you think there's any education value of it? And he did this thing, this Adrian, did SBT dependency browser to figure out all the sources of importing a library in Rust, and thinks that Scala needs something like that. Okay. So yeah, let's put dependency management helper. Question. I've got to say, I think some of that, like with SPT stuff, like I kind of, despite I guess hopefully knowing a lot of some things, I treat some of that as kind of black magic, and I do what I need to do to get my program working. But yeah, maybe that could be a fun learning thing. So okay, I've got that. So then we have another one, a follow-up to ZIO from scratch would be great. So let me just, maybe since we're doing interactively here, I can put you on the spot with some follow-ups here. Baldwin, could you say a little bit more about what you'd like to see there? Because I don't know if the ZIO kind of internals at a high level have changed a ton since the last time we did it. So, I mean, we can just do it again to kind of have a more up-to-date version and to do it again together. But is there something in particular you wanted to see there that was different, or you just kind of like that and you want more of that? I guess maybe another thing we could do there is we could kind of implement more things from scratch. Like I think the last time we like kind of did like the fiber, but maybe we could do like a little bit more of like a ref or a promise or things like that. Okay, so continuing from the last. Okay, so ZIO from maybe I'll say not so scratch. So building on previous sessions. Okay, I think that's a great one. Okay, so then there's one. It might be worth looking into is how big AI is. What do y'all think of having a session, small project demo using ZIO with an AI library like Synapse ML? So I don't know that one in particular, and we can definitely look at this. So maybe let me first just get this down here. So let's kind of call this like Zio with AI. So we actually did have a session, I think it was last year, maybe beginning of last year, where Daniel joined us, and we talked about his Zio OpenAI library, which is kind of a Zio wrapper around the OpenAI interface. So I just wanted to flag that's out there, but I think there's definitely, more that we could do there. And I guess, I mean, there are a lot of different flavors of AI now. There's like the chatbot type AI, there's more like specific kind of more numerical machine learning algorithms. So there's definitely more we could do there. But that's definitely something we could explore more of. Let me go through some more of these. All right, so another idea would be developing a full app, maybe a vertical slice of a to-do app or something, would provide a full example for people to see how to use database clients, add metric support. I see there are on demand based on views in other languages. Yeah, so I think that's a great one. That was kind of one I had in my back pocket. So I guess I'll come back to that in a sec. But now that I'm looking at this, there's like another thing we could do, and we can see what does OpenAI think, or I guess this is Copilot. What does Copilot think would be good topics for us? Maybe when we get done with all our real ones, we can see what it comes up with. Yeah, so I think I'll call it kind of a Zio web application, and I think you mentioned to-do app. There's also that existing Zio pet shop. I don't know how many of you have looked at that. I mean, I think it was at one point there was a good amount of work that went into it. I don't know if it's really gotten a lot of love since then, but yeah, I mean, I think we could either just do our own to-do app, or we could take that Zio pet shop and we could kind of update it. But I think definitely one interesting thing could be to kind of have just like I don't know if it's going to be a particularly like innovative app, but kind of a Zio example of just kind of a standard Cruddy type app that just kind of does all the things with the various Zio libraries. So yeah, I think that's definitely a good one. Let's see what else here. Okay, another follow-up, but to the Zio stream, and not in its implementation, but in the examples of usage, when to use and how to use it, avoiding pitfalls, etc. Okay, so just kind of Zio streams, such. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, it looks like we got a couple of kind of thumbs up to the Zio web app idea. Will there be a Zio hackathon this year? I think probably. I don't have a time for it, but also to some extent, like every day can be a Zio hackathon day. So if you're interested in something, or you have something you'd like to work on, I think I'm definitely happy to just like get in touch with you, or we can pair up and just work on something or give you feedback about something. So if you've got kind of enthusiasm, I don't want the kind of timing of the Zio hackathon to get in the way of that, though the hackathons are lovely. Yeah, okay, so we have Zio Prelude. And we don't think these separate ones. Yeah, and Pauline, could you maybe say a little bit more about what you're interested in with those two? Just, well, I mean, I think Zio Mock we haven't done a session on, and we definitely can. I think it's probably a library I personally use a little less, just because I kind of use test implementations versus mocks. But I mean, definitely sometimes they can be useful, and I think it's a matter of preference. Like some people like them a lot, so we could do something there. I wonder if maybe we could get Piotr. He was the one who like originally developed that functionality to join for that. So that could be fun. And then, I mean, Zio Prelude, there's like a lot there. We've done sessions before, but we can definitely do another session. Or if there's something kind of particular you're interested in seeing there, we could look at that. What else? I see a bunch of other folks are typing, or I see other folks who typed something. We're typing at one point, but I haven't actually seen a message from them. So I feel like there's more ideas that are floating in the ether here. Okay. So I wrote a stream pipeline to process SSE in Z client, following one of the Zymposium tutorials that does what I wanted from it. But it'd be great to see you bomb-proof it, polish it, and make it more general, and perhaps even integrate it into Zio HTTP if the functionality isn't there. Yeah, I think that's great. So yeah, so I mean, I think there's a couple, like, so specifically, maybe I'll just say SSE pipeline. Oops, that was not appropriate typing. SSE pipeline that Chris did. I guess that's kind of the super specific, but I think the maybe more general is we kind of look at that as like kind of contributions to particular libraries. Okay, so then there's yeah, so Zio interop cats. Yeah, that's definitely one we could do. I think some of this, like, maybe falls a little bit victim to. Yeah, I mean, I try to do something interesting to everyone, but also I guess I have my own like preferences and biases, and I guess I mostly just work with Zio, and so I mean, interop is definitely useful, and I've done some stuff on it, but I mostly just try to not have to use it at all. But obviously, there are lots of people who, in what you're doing, you need to use it. So yeah, we could definitely have a session on that. Okay, and maybe I'll make a note here of maybe new types as being a focus area here. And then, yeah, so there's one about Zpure. So yeah, that could be kind of an interesting one. That is part of Zio Prelude, and I would say one of the kind of top 3 or 4 reasons that most people would use Zio Prelude if you don't want to get super abstract, but just kind of want some practical things that'll solve common problems for you. And I don't know if we've really kind of done a deep dive specifically on that. So that could definitely be a good topic. Cats versus Zio features. Yeah, I'll have to think about a way to do that. And like, I don't know. I've tried to be less controversial about some things, I guess, and kind of just focus on kind of what we're doing and how we can make it better. But yeah, I'll have to think about that. Or yeah, I mean, I think some of it's just kind of what style do you like. But yeah. Okay, I see a couple more folks are typing, so I'll take a minute. Okay, so Zio mock did not feel very okay. Improving. See, we saw a few more folks typing, so I'm just going to give people some time. Yeah, I know some people are still going, but I'm really happy that like this is like a lot of stuff. I was worried I was going to be like, crickets, and like I just get to be like, oh, here are like some ideas. But I think this is really great that like this is a really good list. And I mean, maybe once other people are done, I'll throw out a couple other things, and I'm sure we'll do other things as we go. But yeah, it's really cool to have a set of things that people are interested in that we can kind of make sure we do this year. And we'll kind of have this session we can like hold ourselves accountable to hitting on some of these things. Okay, so we've got another one about kind of debugging with Zio. Yeah, I think that could be good. I think some of that may be stuff that just doesn't really exist in Scala in general, I think. But yeah, we can definitely kind of look at different things we can do there and maybe play with something. Yeah, we have this kind of implementing a feature in the library. That's a good one. Okay, well, I think maybe one more person typing, but while they go, I'll come back to that, and also anyone else that have stuff, keep going, but I'll throw out a couple of others. So I think one would be, we kind of did the distributed actors, and I think we could maybe with a little more polishing, we could then use that to do some kind of distributed algorithms. So I think that would maybe be a fun thing to do. I think another one potentially would be like some kind of like macros. I think that's one of the things that like I think a lot of people have heard about and like not many people actually do. And I think it's been kind of a tough area because like for a while, if you wanted to do it, you kind of had to learn both like the Scala 2 macros and the Scala 3 macros, both of which were kind of esoteric in their own way. And I think it just didn't like really make sense for a lot of people versus I think now maybe we're getting far enough, fingers crossed, to people using Scala 3 that you could say, hey, I'm like just going to do this thing for Scala 3, and maybe that could be like a fun thing for us to kind of explore, like what can we do with that, and kind of try to build some knowledge there together. I'm assuming the yes, please is for the macros, or maybe it's for the other one. I think yeah, the web application was one that I had on my list as well. Let's see, this could possibly be rolled into the full app session, but I think it would be interesting to have a session about how to handle web sockets. Yeah, I think that's a really like concrete. So web sockets with Zio, HTTP, and Zio String. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic one. I think maybe I'll throw out a couple that maybe are just more like almost questions for folks here, and because there's oh hold on, let me see what this is. So not code heavy, we'll be explaining different parts of Zio design to capture the high level ideas behind. Yeah. So Adrian, do you mean more like kind of I guess how like Zio works, like the idea of kind of it's the like plan of what you're going to do versus doing the thing? Or do you mean more of like the design principles when you like write a Zio library about like how things are organized, or maybe everything? The existing part. Okay. Yeah, so I guess some of the visual design of high level Zio concepts. Yeah, I mean that's kind of an interesting challenge because like it's almost like, I mean, visual or not, it's like, okay, if you have Zio or whatever, you know, if I had to tell you like here are the like 3 or 5 concepts, like what would they be? Like I think I'd have to like think about that a little bit to like, I mean, I have some ideas, but I have to think about it a little bit to say like what are the 3 or 5 concepts. So maybe that's a good exercise. Um, so I guess database solutions in Zio ecosystem. Anyway, I see Chris is typing, so definitely keep going, but I'll throw out a couple of others. And these are probably a little bit more question marks, but like a while ago we did a couple of sessions where we did more like type level programming stuff. Wasn't necessarily Zio, but just kind of, I guess, showing that like feature in the Scala language and kind of some things you could do with it. I think it was interesting. I'm not sure like we did that much practical with it, but it was cool. So I don't know if you want to see more of that, or we've kind of done that at one point. We could also do something like, again, this is like a little bit more like, I guess, kind of learning in general versus Zio specific, but we could like create a mini programming language. That would be a little bit more of like a general purpose type thing. Okay, so here's how to idiomatically wrap a yeah, I think that's a really good one. Yeah, I think we had that. Yeah, we had that like implementing a feature in a Zio library. Yeah. Or yeah, I mean, maybe some of these are going to overlap with each other a little bit, but yeah, just maybe spotlight on different Zio libraries. Yeah, Zio Parser is a really cool library that Daniel did that I think we had one session on it before, but we might end up using in one of those things. Yeah, so kind of explore a particular functional domain. If folks have ideas of ones they want to do, like definitely throw it out there. But yeah, I think that would be a little bit of inspiration. So we got a little bit more typing going on here. Anything looking at this list people feel like is not here that they'd like to see covered at some point? We did a SparkQL query builder functional domain. No, I mean, okay. All right, QL query builder. Yeah, I'm not opposed. It's a problem domain is a problem domain, and I mean, I don't know. Some of these things would be fun because, like, I mean, I think a lot of the things we've done have been a little bit just like, we kind of do like the toy example of something. I think that could be really good for learning, but it would be cool if we could find something where like maybe we do some of it and it does some things, it doesn't do a bunch of things, but like it's actually something that like other people would want to carry on as an open source project of their own. So I think that could be a cool idea, or if other people have ideas, then definitely put them out there. I mean, I don't think I think it has to be something that we all learn from, but it's even better if it's like practical as well and something that would like actually solve a problem that someone can have. Yeah, that would be cool. Uh, Anything else here? Okay, well, yeah, I think this is a really fantastic list. I mean, I guess this is, yeah, like, I mean, we have like almost 25 different things here, which is a ton. So I think one, I'll just have this and I can use this, but Two, I'll try to organize this and pare it down. And I'm not sure, maybe I'm going to need to use some kind of Google form or something. I was thinking I would do one of those like Discord polls where it's just like, vote on like the banana or the tomato. But I think there may be enough things here that it requires a slightly more structured tool. But what I'll try to do is put something together where like people can actually vote on this stuff. And, it won't be, I guess, ironclad, but I'll kind of use that to like prioritize what we cover throughout the year and like what we do first and later. And like I said, we got special guests for the next couple of sessions, and we'll definitely just do other things as things come up. But I think this is like really cool to have a nice list of things that you all are excited about us doing that we can just work our way through. So I think that was really the main topic for today, and we definitely don't have to, we have some sessions that go like an hour and a half, so we have some that don't go the full hour as well. But maybe just since we're all together, let me put it out there, like, does anyone have any questions or any just like topics that are more just one-off things that they'd like to hit on right now while we're together? And if so, we can do that. If not, we can break here. And yeah, we've got the backlog, but I'm really, really excited about this. And thanks everyone for your engagement here. What's the crack on the Golem side of things? What's the, sorry, I don't know what the crack is. Or maybe it's a joke I'm not getting. Okay. So in terms of debugging, let me go back to that. And I think we can probably look at that a little bit. I don't know if everything that was scoped out there like actually exists, or at least my knowledge really exists in Scala. But as far as debugging, there are a couple of techniques that you can use. So I think maybe let's just have a little bit of like debugging. So I would say like maybe one way to think about it is like order of like easy and simple right now versus like industrial strength. So I would say one of the easiest things to do is just this zio.debug operator, which you see here. And hold on, let me just scroll down. No, it's I mean, again, we can kind of maybe do the like quick version of it here, and then we can always kind of come back to more later. But yeah, we'll kind of do maybe a little bit of it. So the Zio debug is basically just going to print something to your console. So you can see here, right, when I was just making sure this works, it just did print line hello world. And it's basically not any different than printing it than doing like a print line. It's just maybe a slightly more ergonomic way to do it. The one other way that you can do this, if you haven't seen it before, is I can do something like, let me do zio.succeed 42, and I can just do .debug here. So instead of doing it as kind of a companion object method, I can just do it as a dot operator here, and that'll just print the result. And then the other thing that can be nice here is I can give it a label. I guess that's fun from Copilot. And so this can be useful if you have kind of actual code that you're debugging in like a test, of you can throw a bunch of these around of like, this is like debug A, this is debug B, this is debug something else. And you can see all those things. So like, let me do for blank in, let's say from.make unit, and then say video.unit.for. Here, let's do a slightly more real one. Let's say so this, if I run this, is oops, value. Oh, I think I'm missing. So this is going to suspend indefinitely, right? Because I'm waiting on this promise here, and I'm kind of expecting this fiber is going to complete the promise, but it never does because this line of code fails, and so then this continuation never gets executed. So, okay, this is kind of obvious if we just look at it visually, but let's imagine that it wasn't obvious to us for some reason. So like a very like common thing I would do, again, not maybe the most kind of submitting it in our actual production code, but kind of me figuring out what's going on here is I'm just going to start throwing debug statements around. And so like, let me do this now. And okay, so I see, okay, this got executed and then this completed, it was a failure, and then this never executed. And yeah, maybe I didn't realize that like once this failed, it meant that this thing would not be running. But then I can say, okay, so I got to here and I never hit here, and then maybe I realize, oh yeah, this means it doesn't run if this thing fails, or maybe I go to Discord and I ask about that, or I look something up. But that's kind of a very simple tool that you're like Adrian is totally right that it's no different than just doing print lines, other than I think having it as this dot operator and not having to do the Zio succeed print line or whatever yourself. It just makes it, you saw, like a little bit easier to do this. So it's kind of a quality of life thing. This operator is actually intentionally not integrated with any logging or anything else. I mean, this is kind of explicitly designed to be the print line of this stuff. If you want something that's like a little bit more, again, kind of, I guess, production grade or actually going to go in, then you've got the actual Zio logging functionality. And so you have a whole bunch of operators to do like log errors or things like that. So like here I could do, say, Zio dot log info, created the promise. And depending on how, hopefully I don't need to be this low level in my logging to, about to create the promise. And then there's a lot of other functionality that comes with this, like I can do like Zio dot log span, my simple operation. And I can throw this inside of this, and now I'll kind of know that that's where I was in here. So there's a whole bunch of functionality that I think is mostly the typical functionality that you would expect for logging that's built in. Of basically, you have your different log levels of your debug and your info and your warn and your error and all that stuff. You have the ability to do log spans. You also have the ability to add log annotations. So that's kind of another tool that is like, I would say, like one step up from the debugging and a lot of what you'd want to do here. Then you also, I guess, other tools you have. You've got, this is not right. You can also implement some tracing functionality. So there's like a Zio open telemetry library. I think that's probably a little bit beyond at least what we can do today, but you've also got that functionality if you want to use that. You also have metrics that are built into Zio. So this particular problem here probably doesn't require metrics, but you can also have metrics of you could like track the number of times this fails or that kind of. Let's see what else. So then you've also, I think probably the other thing I'd highlight for us right now is there's the fiber dump functionality. Oops. And so maybe, so let me extract this whole thing into another variable. And then let's make my program say that I first want to do, so I'm going to use this fiber.dump all operator. And I'm going to delay that for, let's say, 5 seconds. And I'm going to fork that off. And then I'm going to take this example and I'm going to run it. And so this program is also not going to terminate because this thing's not going to terminate and I'm trying to run this thing. But what it's going to do is after 5 seconds, this fiber here is going to do a fiber dump, which is basically going to print all the fibers in the program and kind of where they are. And so we'll see that we've got kind of one that's waiting on something here. So let's try running this. Let's see. This is actually, oh, maybe this doesn't print it. Hold on. See, I thought it did. Hold on 1 second. Let me just check. To go back and look at that. Let's see. No, I'll use the debug. Yeah, okay. And so you'll see we get each of the fibers in the program and we get its status here. So you sometimes have to do like a little bit of kind of logic on this. I guess one thing that someone maybe with more kind of front end talent than me could do at some point is I think you could imagine having like something that kind of takes this information and presents it in more of like a visual way of like here you say, okay, so fiber 0 is waiting on fiber 1 and fiber 1 is suspended. And then you get the traces for them. So this can be the other tool that can sometimes be useful to diagnose things. I think personally, I tend to use fiber dumps a little bit less. At least when personally when I'm kind of debugging issues in like Zio or things I'm doing, I end up getting a lot of value out of just the debugging. But I think a lot of times, you want to have different tools that let you kind of look at the problem in different ways, and different ones of those can be useful to you to solve different problems. But I think at a high level, kind of our goal with the debugging functionality around Zio has kind of been to have Zio equivalents of what you would have, say, if you were just using Java and threads. So one of the things like we really did with Zio 2 is we really tried to make these stack traces look exact. I mean, they're technically not Java stack traces, they're like Zio stack traces, but we've tried to make them look very similar to Java stack traces and in fact be interoperable between them. So I think, you know, again, you think about like with Java, you could do like a thread dump and you see all the threads. So the fiber dump is, I mean, take the word thread and you replace thread with fiber and you get the fiber dump, and it's kind of intended to do the same thing. And so I think a lot of the philosophy is like, look, people have been programming in Java for quite a while. And I mean, it's not, we don't love it as much as a language as Scala in many ways, but in terms of tooling and metrics and observability, there are lots of things that exist that people are using. So let's essentially provide the Zio equivalents of that. And so that's what we tried to do. Cool. So yeah, I'm glad that the fiber dumps are a new thing for you. Yeah, I guess we did this a little bit spur of the moment, so I wasn't sure if everything was just going to be like, yeah, I've seen that before. But that's great. And in fact, I think let me maybe bring in just Zio streams for a minute because I can show you one more thing related to the debugging functionality. Let me reload this. So you can also use that debug operator with streams. So I could do like zstream 123 dot debug dot drain. Oops. Yeah. And it'll just this time it'll debug each of the elements instead of the final result when you do it on a stream. So again, nothing amazing there, right? I could replace the same thing with like map Zio and console dot line and. But certainly, you know, if you're kind of just trying to figure out what the heck is going on, this can sometimes be nicer. So that's just another little convenience thing to be aware of. You know, there's a question in what format we present the fiber dump. Yeah, so I think there's like conceptual at least, yeah, you could think of kind of showing this whole like graph of basically like say all the fibers in the application, and you could show what state they're in, who's supervising them, and you can basically see this whole tree and what's going on. There's actually some cool work that Andreas presented, I think at Zio World last year, about doing some of that. And before that, there was a project called Panopticon that some of the, I think, Scala C folks were working on that was trying to do that. So I think there have been different like attempts at it. I don't know if anything's like gotten to the stage where it's like, yes, this is like done, this is ready, everyone's using this. But conceptually, I think there's like a really cool tool that you could have there. Yeah, I think, yeah, that probably covers that right now. Is there anything else that people would like to ask about or cover while we're together right now? We'll definitely, we'll have like 50 more sessions or so, so we can do lots of stuff. But yeah, just while we're together, happy to cover anything else that people are interested in for a few minutes. And I don't really know about the default log format of Zio logging, but yeah, I guess we can look at stuff if people want it to be different. I think also probably it's more important to like, I mean, I think the default one, if we just do like the Zio log info here is like, you know, I guess, let me see if I can go back to it. Yeah, let me run this one. I certainly be not for this to be as nice as it can be, but I think probably most people are actually using this with real logging backend and have their log formats for stuff. Okay. So that's a really interesting one about the Zio schema integration. So I guess one thing just about like design philosophy. Basically, and I think we did a session on Zio logging, but it's definitely worth coming back to. The idea is that the built-in functionality in Zio itself provides, I would say, basic logging functionality. So you see you log things. It has log levels, but you log strings here. You have log spans. The spans are strings. You do log annotations. It's basically a map of strings to strings. So I think that probably covers you for, I'd say, 80% of logging use cases, but definitely there's a set of like more advanced logging use cases that you want more stuff than that. And that's where Zio logging, the library, comes in. One of my colleagues, Peter, actually works on that. And that provides you with basically two broad sets of things. One is it provides you with logging backend connections. So you want to send this to log4j, you want to send this here. And two, it provides some operators that do more of those fancy type things of, I want to do type log annotations, stuff like that. So if there's specific functionality there that you'd like to see, and I mean, particularly, like Zio log and Zio schema integrations, like a great one. Like, I don't know if there's an issue for it already, but I think that's a great thing to bring up on the Discord, and we can talk about. Peter's been like super responsive to a bunch of things and has been continuously working on different improvements there. So if there's more we can do, I think that would be a great area to kind of figure out. And I mean, maybe we can see how we want to have him on, or we want to do something together, or we want to fit it in some other things. But regardless, if there's kind of improvements we can make there, it'd be great to do those. I see we have one more person typing, so I think I'll just give everyone a chance to make any final kind of comments or questions, and then we'll plan on wrapping it up for the day. Well, thanks, Chris. I really appreciate it. And I mean, thank you to all of you. I mean, I know you're taking time on your Fridays, and depending on where you are in the world, it's either during a work day or maybe it's on a Friday night or what have you. So really appreciate everyone joining and their engagement there. Yeah, so the automatic blocking support. So what that basically does is it's looking for a fiber that is not suspended, but is not making progress. And when that happens, it will shift that to the blocking executor. So you really shouldn't have a situation where you need to use the blocking operator in Zio as long as you have that auto blocking feature enabled. That the blocking operator should essentially be a optimization. But one thing to keep in mind about that is that only works with things that are like actually blocking versus things that are semantically blocking. So like in this example here, again, if I run this, you can see this program is just blocked forever. And that's because we're waiting on this promise here that never gets fulfilled. And when we're waiting on a promise or we're doing any kind of actual waiting with Zio, that's all implemented under the hood asynchronously in terms of callbacks. So there's no thread that is actually being blocked, and also there's no fiber that is in an active state and is not making progress. So here, this fiber is going to enter a suspended state as soon as it waits on this promise. Now, instead, if I was like waiting on like a like a Java util concurrent countdown latch or something that was actually blocking, and I was doing that, then Zio should identify that and spin up another fiber to maintain the target number of fibers in the application. Now that still relies on some other fiber actually fulfilling the condition that lets this fiber continue. So it doesn't solve all deadlocks you have. It basically solves the starvation problem. But it is a heuristic. So I generally recommend that, like, if you know something's blocking, use the blocking operator for it. So like if I know something's going to be blocking, I can either do Zio dot blocking, and this is going to select the Zio, or I can do Zio dot succeed blocking, or Zio dot attempt blocking. These both expect things that aren't Zios, but expect something that either is not going to fail or is potentially going to fail with the throwable. Okay, I'll give maybe one more minute here for people to ask questions. Because I think we actually have had enough actual blocking XU and non-blocking pool, eventually exhausting. So I don't think that's really possible, because the blocking pool is an unbounded thread pool, at least unless you've overridden it. That's kind of its contract, that it will always accept new tasks and execute them. And if you were doing blocking yourself, you're just yourself shifting it onto that same pool. Right, but the auto blocking, they're going to take those things that are on the non-blocking pool and move them to the blocking pool. So I don't think that would happen. But again, like bugs are the domain of things happening that you don't expect to happen, or there may have been something else going on in your application. And maybe one other thing is the auto blocking functionality is part of Zio's executor. So if you're running on a different executor, you're not going to get that functionality. It's kind of specific to that. All right, I'll give just a couple minutes for people to make their comments here. Any resources on error handling best practice in Zio? I sometimes fall trapped. I have a trait that returns an IO my error unit, for instance, but it might wrap a call that might fail in a throwable map error. Get message is the best I come up with sometimes, or worse, or die. Yeah, so I think that's definitely, like, maybe I'll add on our list of little topics here. I think we could definitely have something on like error handling in Zio. I think there are a couple of different approaches and best practices that we could spend a little bit more time on. Everyone's typing here. That was great. Love it. Yeah, so it does. So there's essentially the Zio scheduler has one additional thread that's basically like a supervisor that is checking in on all of these other threads and making sure that they're making progress. And if they're not making progress, then it's basically shifting the rest of their work to new threads that it's spinning up. So you can think of essentially when you're submitting work to Zio, you have all these different tasks that need to be executed. And if you have maybe, let's say, typically you'll have like 8 different threads in your application in a non-blocking pool, each of them may have a work queue of 100 different tasks that are going on. And what the supervisor will do is detect, okay, this thread isn't making progress, and it'll take those other 99 tasks and it'll shift them on to a new thread so that you don't have starvation there. Now, again, that's not going to solve all of your problems, as you saw here, if we have things where you just have like a deadlock, but it makes sure that your blocking tasks don't starve your non-blocking pool. Okay, and then the BL says Zio HTTP things in the backlog. Yeah, well, I mean, we got you coming in next week, but let's see, what's Zio HTTP ones that we have? People were interested in WebSockets with Zio HTTP and Zio Streams, and then we were talking about creating a web application with Zio, like a pet shop or to-do app type thing. And I think those were kind of the 2 big ones, though those are our big ones. Yeah. So then the BL asks, is there any benefit to calling explicitly a blocking operation when you know, for example, that you read a file? What if it is fast and would not auto block if you don't call blocking? Oh, yeah, definitely. So when you do blocking on something, what Zio is going to immediately do is it's going to take whatever's inside that and it's going to run it on a separate thread from the blocking thread pool. So one of the things that you do want to think about is blocking is in a way not a binary thing. Like it's blocking or it's not blocking. Because lots of things may block for a very short period of time. So like every time you synchronize on something, right, you are potentially blocking on it. Now, one of the things you might need to think about is when I block on a thing, am I blocking on it for potentially a minute, or am I never going to block on it more than basically a very almost infinitesimal amount of time because of the way I've structured my application? If I know my blocking is going to be very short-lived, then I might not want to use these operations at all because there's definitely a cost involved of I'm taking that work and I'm shifting it onto a new thread and submitting it to a thread pool. So if I know things are going to be very short-lived, then maybe I don't want to really treat them as blocking. I mean, that's in a way essentially what the auto blocking is doing is it says it's basically got a certain amount of time. If I don't see you make progress in this number of milliseconds, I'm going to assume you're blocking in a potentially inappropriate way that's going to cause starvation, and I'm going to spin up another thread for that. So if you have very short-lived things, then Zio succeed may be fine. If they're potentially longer-lived, then that's where it can be useful to do the Zio.blocking. And what that does is it basically kind of short circuits the heuristic. So it doesn't have to kind of wait and see, oh, this thing has been stuck for this many milliseconds, let me move this work over. It just immediately moves it over. Yeah, and then I see, yeah, Chris pointed out, and sorry, I missed that one. Where is it? I think I actually even had your name on this one. There it is. Yeah, so Chris had been saying that he worked on this pipeline for the Z client, and he was interested in maybe kind of bulletproofing that and getting that to a point where it could be part of ZHTTP. So yeah, I guess that's the other one that I mean, definitely, Nabil, that this is like a list of ideas for the whole year. So definitely the ZHTTP ideas do not all need to be covered next week. But yeah, that's what we got here. Okay, well, I think we're, sure. Okay, so we got one more question. This is good. I love this engagement. So it says, Oh, and so Nabil, yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up over the weekend, and then I think I'm going to probably post make like a Google form or something where people can actually like vote on which one of these they're interested in, and then I'll kind of use that to like prioritize what we cover over the year, as well as I'm sure we'll have other stuff come along the way. Yeah, so Chris has a great question. This is actually a really good one to cover. So let's do an example. Yeah, I think I will. I'll definitely post a link to it. I was saying originally I was thinking I would do one of those Discord polls where people just have like the banana and the apple and they highlight the ones they want. But I think we actually have too many topics for that. So I think I'll do a link to like some kind of real like thing where people can vote on it. Okay, so let me see if I can create a example of this. So let's. Okay, so I'm going to have something called child. And what it's going to do is it's going to, let's say, zio.debug. I'm just going to print a period. I'm going to delay that 1 second. I'm going to run that forever, and I'm going to fork it. And then I'm going to, so let me first show this working, and then we'll see kind of an issue here. So let's say I create this child, and then I'm going to sleep for 5 seconds here. It's running. So we see this thing is going to print the dot. It basically wants to go forever. But when the program exits, then obviously the dot printing gets stopped. And the program is going to exit as soon as it gets down here. So now let's kind of have another example. So let's say val parent is equal to child dot fork. Okay, so notice that no dots got printed here. So why is that? So it's basically that same version of the program exiting, but at the fiber level. So we've got a rule that when a fiber completes execution, it interrupts all of its children. And that's really like, you could think of that as a principle of like structured concurrency, that like almost like if you think about like a fiber forking children as like having kind of workers who are helping you out. Like if I'm, I don't know, if I'm running a company that's supposed to like paint this building and then like someone fires me, then like my workers shouldn't keep painting the building, right? Like now that I've been fired, like the whole painting project is done. And that's essentially what's going on here of parent this fiber here, this fiber that we forked here, all that it's doing is forking this thing. And as soon as it's done, then it interrupts its child here. So if this is not behavior that we want, then instead of forking here, I can use this fork daemon operator. So now let's try running this again. And now we see we get back to that kind of expected behavior of when we say fork daemon, essentially we're saying that this fiber is no longer a child. So here, I don't think I have quite the like pencil to write, but let's call this fiber A, and this fiber that's running this whole thing fiber B. If I just do fork, then A is the child of B. If I do fork daemon, then A and B are unrelated to each other. In addition to that, I can also use an operator called fork in. And this takes an explicit scope that is going to govern the lifetime of this. So let me maybe show an example of that. So I could make a scope here, and then maybe I'm going to parameterize these. So I'm going to pass this scope down. And now let's go a little bit farther. Maybe let's say debug done, waiting 5 seconds. Then let's sleep another second. And then let's close the scope. So now we see it's this, it's not just this fiber gets to go on forever, because if we go back to this code, this means that this fiber is going to run until the entire program shuts down, which is kind of one extreme, right? If like the fork was like one extreme of kind of interrupted as soon as your parent gets interrupted, that's maybe too short for you, right? That was our first problem. The fork daemon is like the opposite extreme of like, keep doing your thing forever until you stop on your own, but like never stop. The scope I really like because it gives you this like more fine-grained ability to control exactly how long the life of this thing should be. Because you could imagine maybe this is like a heartbeat signal that maybe should exist as long as some service is being used. But like once the service is done, then maybe the service is going to be done before the whole application, and we don't need to keep sending the heartbeat signal. Yeah, so like, and yeah, Nabil says that, yeah, they're given a lot to background processes. And yeah, and that's a totally fine way to do it. If you do have it as part of a service, that's where this zlayer.scoped operator can be nice, because I can do zlayer.scoped, and then I could do, let's say, I'll grab this thing, and I could just do fork scoped. And so this is now a layer that, when it's acquired, is going to start this. And when it's shut down, is going to stop doing this thing. And so I could do, let's see, do another silly example. Maybe I'll make these stars just so I can. Got it. And so I could do like provide layer here. And so now what I should see is I've got the dots that are printing on their schedule. And now it's right before I start the sleep, I'll start my stars. And then as soon as I get done with the sleep, I'll stop the stars. So let's see if I can do this. Yeah, and so you see we got the dots and the stars for a while, but then once we were done with the waiting 5 seconds, this thing had already made sure the stars stopped, and so we just got a couple of dots with our very scientific process of dots and stars here. Okay, and then there's a question, so let's go back to this for a sec. So I'm going to get rid of these scope things. And so I think the version that Baldwin is asking about is this one. So I'm just going to get rid of this. And I'm just going to get rid of some of this stuff here. All right, so this time we're going to do just, we do this as fork name and this is fork. Let's try running this and see what happens. So yeah, so that has different semantics because this says that this one, A, is still a child of B. This says basically B is not a child of the main fiber. But the issue was not B being the child of the main fiber, right? B is still going to finish because the only thing that B is responsible for doing is forking child, right? Once it's done, then we have nothing else to do here. So as soon as it's done, it's still going to interrupt its children. So I think overall, maybe one helpful way to think about it is, I think I've been mentioning and like other people have mentioned this idea of background processes. Basically, when you want to create a background process and you want it to live longer than the fiber that's created it, then you want to think about using an alternative to fork. You want to use either this fork daemon or this fork in or fork scoped. But for a lot of cases, this actual fork will do exactly what you want, because a lot of times your process is not really a background process. It's like, I mean, let's imagine, right, we're computing pi and we've got like 10 different fibers that are all doing their work to compute pi. Like if we interrupt the parent that's supposed to eventually return pi, or if it somehow returns pi early, then there's no need for all these fibers that are computing pi. So I think overall it embodies like a really good principle of that structured concurrency, this hierarchical structure, but just we need to be aware that if we're deviating from that and we're want to create something that lives longer, then we just have some special operators that we use to let us express that. I see there's some questions around that, so I'll just give people a couple minutes. But I love how engaged everyone is. This is awesome. I was worried this was going to be like a super short session. Yeah. But imagine we said something of like, we only want to compute it to 10 digits. And once we get the 10th digit, then we just, or some precision, or we want to do it until we have 10,000 samples or whatever. And once we do it, then we just return, then all the other fibers are automatically interrupted. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, my pattern is usually fork daemon, followed by server running forever. Yeah. We have one more person typing. I'll just let them finish and then we will say, if you're using fork daemon and want something to happen when this background fiber completes, how would this be done? Yeah, so in general, if I want something done when a fiber completes, then I can use an operator like on interrupt or on exit. In this case, I kind of know that if this thing completes, it's not normal. So let me do like a simple one first. And let's go back to, so I think we said, sorry, I'm doing in the layer one, which is the wrong one. So up here, so I could do dot ensuring interrupted. And so now we are going to, let's see, let's have this one. Wait a second after doing it. So basically this one's going to fork this one. It's going to get to go for a little while. Then it's going to finish. It's going to interrupt this one. Let's check this out. And I want to. So that's how you would just do something. And then, yeah, if you wanted to send that information somewhere, then something like a ref would be a good way to do it. So yeah, that's exactly. Okay. Well, I think this ended up being a really full session here. So this was fantastic. Like I said, to start out, Happy New Year's, everyone. Hope you had a great holidays. Thanks so much for joining, and thanks so much for being so engaged with ideas here. I'm going to take all of this, and like I said, I'll try to organize a little bit because I think we have some things that are like overlapping, or maybe I didn't write down in the most perfect way possible. And then I'll try to create some kind of web forum where people can vote on them, and I'll post the link to that in our Discord, and we'll go from there. But great getting to spend some time with you, and look forward to lots of fun stuff this year. All right, take care, everyone.